Kal halalim la Yahawashi, Bahashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS that rule well and teach well, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings once again unto you hopeful elect. All right, you brothers and you few sisters out there, all right, that take heed in sincerity and in truth. All right, so the title of the video is, Did Yahawashi come to the Americas, all right, or to the Western world? And that question, that's a very good question, because people ask that question here and there, and it's something that most people don't even think about. All right, damn bug outs out here. But yeah, it's a question that not many people think about even, right? And this is a lesson that has been done here and there throughout the years, but as the new brothers come in, it's something very interesting, because it's something I found very interesting when I first heard it, from the apostles, and then through my own studies, and all this manifestation. I found it very interesting, so I thought I'd do a quick lesson on it. All right. Again, you brothers out there and you sisters, it's your due diligence. Study to show thyself approved. 1 John 5, I believe. Try every spirit. Believe not every spirit, but try the spirit. So you have to do your own due diligence and study this information. All right. You should know things like, okay, Google has gatekeepers. When I type something in, the first friggin' 5 pages are whack. You might have to keep going, or it might not be there. You might have to probably use DuckDuckGo, right? Which is a different browser, which you can find more unfiltered information. You got to do your own due diligence, because this isn't 10 years ago or 15 years ago, where you can type things in Google and all kinds of information comes out. They censor a lot of things now, right? But this is John 10 and 16, and this is Yahawashi speaking, right, in the red letter here. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Right? And there's a fox running in the plaza right here I'm parked in. That's crazy. But this scripture here, right? It says, Yahawashi said, I have sheep, others I have that are not of this fold, right? Now during that time, you had mainly Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You had sprinkles of the other 10 tribes, but the majority of those tribes, they were already in the Americas, right? And they didn't receive the gospel. They didn't receive the good news, right? They didn't receive Yahawashi dying on the cross and being resurrected and dying for Israel's remission of sins, starting with the elect. They didn't receive that gospel, right? So it only makes sense that, okay, if they didn't receive it, they have to have received it at some point, right? And Yahawashi, he did come to the Americas, all right? The answer is yes, the short answer, right? Now, let's go to, here's an image I have. Again, this is dealing with, right, the diaspora or the dispersion, as you see in the Americas. A bunch of relics, archaeological sites, right, that show these people, right? It says peoples claimed by different writers to be the 10 lost tribes dispersed by the Assyrian deportations of 740 to 700 BC. And something that the apostles always have said for years. And one of the first books I've heard them speak about was now I forget. I know the writer, James Adair. He lived among them for 40 years, I believe. He was an Irishman. Not Lost Tribes in Promised Land. That's another good book. I forget the name of the book. and I had it too. But that's a very good book, and he wrote what he witnessed, what they told him. Right? It's not like he just spent a summer or even four seasons among them. No, he spent about 40 years among various tribes of the Gadites. And he said, without a doubt, these have to be the children of Israel, right? So Peruvian Indians, Montesino, which is another, he was a Spanish writer. I believe he was a monk. Not a monk, but you know what I mean. Forget the name for that. But like a priest. But he was claiming that they were Israelites. Yucatan, Mexico, which I've been there. Yucatan, that's where a lot of the pyramids are. All right, and there's a bunch of pyramids that they're still discovering. You know, because when I went there, you can go there and you can't go up the pyramids because you had a bunch of idiots that they decimate the temple, or you know, crackers, man, you know, Edomites. They'll write, oh, Kevin was here, you know, Matt was here, you know, or they'll draw a penis, or you know, Esau, man. Esau does some stupid shit, you know, some demonic crap, right? But anyway, those places are demonic anyway. I'm not trying to big those places up, you know, but that was a heavy Israelite presence there, you know, and at one point they did keep the laws, but they fell off. You know, they fell off, and then they started worshiping other gods and demons, right, that they sacrificed unto. You know, but these are Israelites, man. American Indians, as you see, right? Massachusetts, Delaware Indians, right? So I'm going to read a caption from this book I had. I forget the name of this, you know, Salaki on that. But this was something I believe I got from Google Books, you know, and maybe if you type in some of these keywords, you might find it on Google still, all right? You don't need to type all the paragraphs, but maybe one paragraph, and then you might find that search result. Anyway, it says the peacemaker as a test case. Now in Canada, so my whole point on this is Yahawashi, he was called different names by different tribes. In Mexico, he was known as Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is a long name. All right, it's like Quet Zalcoatl, I believe, something like that. All right, Quetzalcoatl, the flying or the feathery serpent. You know, that's the translation. And among the Mayans, you know, which is a mixture of Issachar and Zebulun, he was known as Kukulkan. You know, same that Yahawashi, right? He came, he delivered a message, right? Pretty much, you know, and certain writers get into more detail, you know. I forget the name that the Ephraim had, the so-called Puerto Ricans, the tribe of Ephraim, which the Puerto Ricans, they were called Boricuas. They call themselves that, you know, which I forget that pretty much. I believe that meant lord or kings or something like that. You know, and all these tribes, they had these different names for themselves, man. You know, these great names, because they knew they were great men. They were great people, right? But they had a name for a figure as well. I forget that name. But among here in Canada, or at least in Ontario and New York State, because that's how far this Confederacy. You know what? I'm gonna start there actually, Slacking, not that part. All right, so this is the Great Peacemaker, right? So in Canada and Ontario, right, you have the so-called Iroquois, which is a French word, right? The Iroquois is a French word, which, funny enough, Iroquois is a derogatory term. Okay, it's a French derivative for like a snake. So the French were calling them snakes, basically. But they had a confederacy, right? There was 5 tribes, and they had a confederacy, an agreement. But who brought them together and made them make that confederacy was this person or this figure that they call the Great Peacemaker in their legends. You know, they're called the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. That's what they call themselves, right? And these were 5 tribes that were basically massacring each other. And the most vicious of them was the Mohawk. They were actually cannibals. They're killing and eating people, man. You know, vicious, like crazy warriors, man, right? But the Great Peacemaker, when he came, right, he corrected all that. He brought them laws, you know? So it says here, the Great Peacemaker, sometimes referred to as the Ganawida, that's what they call him as well, the Ganawida or Tekanawida, right? Was by tradition, along with Jigan Sassi and Hiawatha, the founder of the Haudenosaunee, commonly called the Iroquois Confederacy, right? This is a political and cultural union of 6, all right, not 5, I said 5, it's 6 Iroquois-speaking Native American tribes residing in the present-day state of New York, northern Pennsylvania, and the eastern portion of the province of Ontario, right? And they have a reserve up there by London, Ontario, which we went there a few years ago. We went there for a powwow, and then we went on the reserve as well. So it says here, the Great Peacemaker's name means two river currents flowing together. Some of the numerous legends about the Great Peacemaker have conflicting information. It is reported that he was born a Huron, and by some accounts his mother was a virgin, making the birth miraculous. Now, again, this is going into Jewish fables and traditions of men, you know, but you see the fabled similarities. Born of a virgin, which, you know, in the scriptures, if you know, for brothers that don't know, Mary was not a virgin. All right, she was a young woman. That's what that word there, virgin, meant. Ilam or Ilam or Ilama, which is Elam, which means young. You know, because you see their older women, they look young. When the women are 50, 60, 70, they look young, right? So this is the Great Peacemaker. It says up here, in 1993, in my first contact with Native Canadians at an interfaith event held in Mississauga, Ontario, which is right here in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, the name of the Ganawida was spoken of with reverence in the same breath and spirit as the name of Jesus Christ. I hate even saying that. Yahawashi. Right? It says, this spirit of profound reverence made a deep impression on me, and I resolved to find out more about this Native Canadian culture hero. In the course of my subsequent reading, I came across this generous assessment of the legacy of the Ganawida and the Iroquois spoken by Richard Pallant in his address to the Institute of Iroquois Studies in 1960. And this is, quote, the 6 nations in Canada constitute the most complete survival we have today of one of the highest cultures of one of the races of mankind, the Indian, which they call themselves Indian, right? Indian means savage. You know, you weren't calling yourselves Indians. All right, in Spanish, Indios means in God. That's what they were calling the other ones on the islands, right? Unlike the Mayas and the Incas to the south, the Longhouse people, right? They were called the Longhouse people because they had them long wooden houses that they built, right? They were kind of narrow, but they were long, you know. Develop a democratic system of self-government. They alone among the Indian nations made a major political contribution in their form of government, which can be maintained to have furnished a prototype for the United States and the United Nations. Socially, the 6 nations met the sociologist's tests of higher cultures by having given a preferred status to women, which a lot of the 10 tribes went off on that, you know, which all Jakes go off on that, right? Because it's the Queen of Heaven spirit. Okay. This assessment, though somewhat out of place in an academic setting, shows the kind of recognition the Ganawida can enjoy even in learned societies. This may be due in part to the importance of the Iroquois Great League of Peace as a cultural and ritual institution, and the subsequent Iroquois Confederacy as a political and diplomatic entity, and its presumed influence on the framing of the American system of government. The problem of Iroquois influence will be discussed later in the paper. Let me go down here. Let me go to the next page. So it says the Ganawida is a name said to mean two water currents flowing together. If tradition warrants some time between 1400 AD and 1600 AD, possibly in the year 1451, when the Iroquois witnessed an eclipse of the sun. Now, what are the scriptures mentions about the signs of heaven? That's how the Lord, He deals with people a lot of times, right? He'll deal with people with signs in the heavens. He'll make signs in the heaven happen, and it'll be for warning or it'll be a message. It'll be something for somebody to interpret, right? The Ganawida, the heavenly messenger, is said to have established the Great League of Peace among the warring five nations of the Iroquois from east to west: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and the Seneca. The League's origins and purposes are explained in the central Iroquois myth, the Ganawida epic. The nature of this warfare was a cultural pattern known as the mourning, essentially a system of blood feuds, right? Because Jake was wicked, man. This was what we're reading here is the story of all the tribes, man. Blood feuds, ain't nothing deeper and more treacherous and harsh and malicious than a blood feud between family, just wicked. And these were the tribes, the Mohawk, the Oneida. There was a guy, we used to prophesy downtown Toronto, and there was a Gadite for years. He used to pass by, and this dude, every time he passed by, he was in the same getup. He had the camo jacket with the camo pants and the black boots and the camo hat. And he usually had a flag, but on his jacket he had a patch, and he was from this nation. I'm not sure which tribe within. I don't know if he was a Mohawk or I don't know if he was a Mohawk. He could have been a Cayuga, but he had that patch of the Iroquois flag. It's like a purple background, and it has the 5 different tribes as represented as trees, I believe. All right, and he used to pass by camp, and he never really talked shit. He actually said, he liked us because we used to speak about the residential school system, and different things like that. And I actually had a dream with him. The Lord, he gave me a dream years ago. I don't usually get a lot of dreams, but I remember this one. We were by camp, or maybe we were just in the spirit by camp, and where we prophesied, there was a place right across called Dundas Square, which is for brothers that know, they know. They got Times Square, Dundas Square. They deal with all these different geometrical shapes. All right, but in the dream, the Gadite told me, he's like, look, he's like, you see the square, whatever. He's like, that's a burial ground. There's bodies under there. That's what he told me in the dream. Nothing else, nothing less. Nothing more, nothing less. I just wanted to share that. Anyway, here it says Huron by birth and Mohawk by adoption. The Ganawida was a prophet, statesman, and lawgiver. Now, Yahawashi is a lawgiver. Yahawashi was a lawgiver, man. Right? Slack you. All right. So yeah, it said right? He was a lawgiver who co-founded, right? So Deganowido was a prophet, statesman, and lawgiver, right? Who co-founded. Hey, doesn't it say Judah is my lawgiver, right? In the book of Psalms. It says, with Hiawatha, the Iroquois League of People of the Longhouse, also known as the Great League of Peace. This league, in actual practice, was vested in a council of 50 peace chiefs, or sachems, a term used to distinguish these from other chiefs. Christian influence, however, cannot be ruled out. For this reason, the version known as the Code of Deganowido, together with the tradition of the origin of the Five Nations as League, prepared by the Committee of Chiefs appointed by the Six Nations Council of Grand River, Canada, and adopted by Council of Chiefs July 3rd, 1900, is prefaced with this concession, quote, with reference to the origin or birth, character, and doings of Deganowido, as herein chronicled, it will be observed that they present an analogy or similarity to Hebrew biblical story and teachings, and I don't really have to say any more on that. That's pretty, that pretty much nails the point down. That's in the year 1900, man. So the truth is out, man. The truth, that we're at the end anyway. All right, but I just wanted to stir some food for food for thought, right, for brothers to open up and start researching different things, on this point. You're gonna come across a lot of BS. You're gonna come across Mormon garbage as well, because the Mormons, they'll try to they'll say, yeah, look, Jesus came here and he gave us the Book of Mormons and all this madness, right? Or he came to the natives and all this stuff. They won't tell you that they're Gadites or Israelites. But you have a lot of architects or architectural findings or archaeological findings, archaeological discoveries. For example, one that comes in my head is the Las Lunas stone in New Mexico. Look that up. Or the Bat Creek stone in Tennessee, right? Which I believe that one, because it sticks out in my head because it was so profound. The Bat Creek stone, because Esau tries to say, oh, this is fake, this is not real. The Bat Creek stone, it showed Paleo-Hebrew, as well as the Las Lunas in New Mexico. But the Bat Creek stone, it read basically, for the land of Judah, or something to that effect. It mentioned Judah, like they were waiting for Judah to come, But anyway, I hope you're edified. That's the main point. I hope you're edified with this. I want to say Kal Halalim. That's all praises. La to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS that rule well and teach well. And blessings unto you, hopeful elect, Akim and Aquathim, that take heed in sincerity and in truth. Shalom.